All right, there's a new book out. It was released yesterday, and you might want to consider. It's called Rage in the Republic, The Unfinished Story of the American Revolution. Now, it's a little pinheady, but I read it, and you'll learn a lot. The first part of the book is the difficulty of getting American society and the American government running in a way that benefited all Americans. Thomas Paine, very crusty guy. Everybody hated him, except me, I liked him. And Jonathan Turley, the author, goes all through that. So if you like history and you read my books, you'll like this. Then the book takes a turn into, well, are we going to be able to keep what we have here? Our republic, are we going to keep it? Because we got now a surge in AI, we got new techs, we got a corrupt media, we got academia that's falling apart. Can we keep it? So joining us now is the aforementioned Jonathan Turley. He's a law professor at George Washington University. You see him on TV all the time, read his columns. All right, so I want to stay in the present day because you are right in the fire zone. So you teach at a very liberal university, George Washington. Some of your columns and commentary are, I wouldn't say conservative right wing, but they're not liberal. And you do go after some people on the left. What has happened to you because of that?
Well, I'm one of the few libertarians, conservatives, contrarians left in academia. Recent surveys have shown that many departments don't have a single conservative or Republican or libertarian. Yale reached sort of nirvana stage not long ago, where they found that not a single faculty member at Yale contributed to the Republican Party. So there's been this purging that has gone on since I first went into teaching over 30 years ago. And I talk about this in Rage in the Republic, because the second half of the book, as you note, Bill, is looking at whether this republic can survive in what we're facing. Now, part of that is what I call the rise of the new Jacobins. And the Jacobins were, of course, those people who brought about the French Revolution, because the book looks at both the American and French revolutions and the personalities involved, and asks, why did one, the American Revolution, become the most successful, oldest democracy in history, and why did the other become the reign of terror, and what we could learn from that? And the Jacobins began as professors, journalists, lawyers, who talked about due process and the rights of man. And then they became architects of the terror. And what the book suggests is we're hearing those voices again, these new Jacobins. You have the dean of Berkeley Law School saying that the U.S. Constitution is a failure. This is on our 250th anniversary. You have the New York Times regularly publishing law professors saying we have to break the system down, pack or get rid of the Supreme Court, make these radical changes. And what the book raises is that these are people who are trying to remove the very elements that got us here today, the very elements that saved us historically from the demise that we saw in things like the French Revolution.
And in modern times, in the fascist states all around the world. But why? Why would intelligent people, number one, veer so far left? Do they fear robust debate? Do they fear allowing the American people to make their own decisions?
Well, there is this echo chamber environment that benefits many of these, particularly law professors, also journalists. They write for each other. If you eliminate anyone who's a dissenting voice, it helps you. You get more invitations to conferences, more publications, more control. The last thing you want is someone who's going to say you're wrong. And I never thought we would be in this position. Quite frankly, as I said, I went into teaching 30 years ago, but more importantly, as I talk about in the book, when I went to University of Chicago, it was an awakening for me. There were people, I grew up in a liberal, democratic, politically active family. I knew there were young Republicans, I just never met one. And I went to University of Chicago, and in the basement, the Trotskyites would meet. And upstairs we had militant vegans, and next door we had these bizarre libertarians. It was like walking into the Star Wars bar scene. And for me, it was absolutely just thrilling. I loved every minute of it. I was fascinated to see people that saw what I saw and saw something completely different. My students simply don't have that anymore. Most law schools, for example, don't even have a Republican or conservative. If they do, they just have a couple. Now, keep in mind, this country is a majority conservative or libertarian. And I had a debate at Harvard with one of their professors, and I raised with him, and I like him a great deal, but I raised with him this issue that the faculty at Harvard has only a handful of conservatives or Republicans, and the student body is less than 9% in a country that's divided equally, and where the majority of judges are conservative. And he immediately said, well, we're Harvard, we're an elite university, we don't have to look like America. And I said, but Randall, you don't even look like Massachusetts. I mean, Massachusetts is over 30%.
But see, that's the key to changing traditional American society, the classroom. So if you get the urchins at age 13, and by the time they get out of college, they're 22, and all they hear is America's bad, stolen land. That amused me greatly at the stupid music awards. If all they hear is that, then you're indoctrinating a whole new generation of Americans to move to the radical left. So I think this is a very well thought out plan.
No, it is. And in fact, Raging Republic goes into that because I talk about Mondami, I talk about all these socialists. The polls show that socialism and even communism are being embraced by really record numbers of young people. And as I talk about in the book, these are people with no memory or experience with the socialist governments that collapsed in the 20th century. So all they know are these sound bites, like Mondami saying, I'm going to introduce you to the warmth of collectivism.
Right.
It's very much like, as I talk in the book, when Mitterrand was elected president of France, he actually appointed a minister of leisure because he was promising the French they'd have so much time paid by the government that he was going to have someone manage to make sure they could get all the leisure they want.
I know.
And of course, the economy collapsed. But these kids never saw that.
Well, I mean, the warmth of collectivism is tough because Mondami can't even plow the snow off the streets of New York City. So that's collapsing pretty fast. But I think that you're correct in saying that when you have a monolithic left-wing educational system, and you do in this country, that's going to change the voting patterns. It has to. Now, the second thing is the corporate media has bought into that. They like that. You often appear on a Fox News channel. George Washington University can't be happy about that, are they?
No, I've been shunned for years, but I've been shunned since I testified in the Clinton impeachment. If you can't be fired, because I'm a chair tenured professor, so instead you're largely shunned.
What does that mean, shunned? How does that?
The thing is, this is a group that'll try to take away everything that has meaning to an intellectual. Publication of papers, joining conferences, those type of things go. If you really sort of violate this orthodoxy.
Have you ever had words with these people who are trying to sabotage your career?
No, because I don't have words with many academics because I am persona non grata.
They don't even talk to you, and
there are very few of us left in academia, and it's amazing because half of the students are coming in this country are coming from conservative or libertarian families, and they get to law schools, and there's virtually no one that can share that view.
Right.
But one of the things that worries me most, and I go into this in Rage in the Republic, is that we're going to be facing challenges that we have never encountered before. I talk about robotics and AI, but also global governance systems like the EU. But even as the book goes into, even taking the most conservative estimates, this book is a roaring endorsement of capitalism. I believe in capitalism. Milton Friedman ruined me at the University of Chicago. I do believe that capitalism will adjust. But we are looking at a massive job loss that we've never encountered before. And that means we're going to have a lot of people that may be on a subsidy of the government. And the book looks at how that would change us politically, not just economically.
Sure.
What if we have a kept citizenry that is being subsidized by the government?
Well, that's what happened in the early 1930s. So
Right,
you
so
had
the
the Hoover people come in, very conservative people, capitalists to the top of their forehead, and they booted the recovery of the Great Depression, and then FDR came in, and the whole electorate changed over. But I'm very interested in your personal story because you do write in a personal way in this book. So you get it on the Fox News channel. Now there's pressure there to toe that conservative line. Do you feel that?
I haven't. I've worked twice as legal analyst for NBC, twice legal analyst for CBS, also with BBC. So I've worked for 4 networks, and I have good memories of all 4 networks. I've never felt pressure at Fox.
Good. I'm glad to hear that because I never did when I was there. They never ever interfere with what I did. But when you're on there, do you understand the vilification? Because that was crazy on from my experience. I got attacked every hour on the hour. I never understood it. So why do you care what I say when you got 5 other news outlets that are saying what you want to hear? Why is one outlier, me or you, if you say something the left doesn't like, why does that bother these people? I never got that.
I think that, and I go into this in the book as well, that part of the problem with this orthodoxy, both in the media and in academia, is that it makes you increasingly intolerant to hear opposing views because all you hear in your echo chamber, if you just go from MS Now to CNN, or if you don't leave that silo, you become more and more intolerant, which is what we're seeing. And also, social media has changed us a lot. I've had a lot of death threats. My family's been threatened. The uptick was when I testified in the second impeachment involving Donald Trump, and I received hundreds of threatening emails.
What did you tell the people, just so if people don't remember, what did you say? Your crux of your remarks were what about Trump impeachment?
Well, I testified at the hearing, and I was the only Republican witness, and I opposed the impeachment.
Okay.
Which I think was an abuse, and I also think the second impeachment was an abuse. But having been with one foot on the media side for 30 years, it has changed in that social media has unleashed a lot of that rage.
Yeah.
And this book talks about rage. All countries, well, not all countries, but many countries are the product of revolution. And revolutions are caused by rage. And our revolution was caused by rage. That's what the Boston Tea Party was rage. The problem is it's easier to start a revolution than to end it. And the reason we succeeded is we had 2 absolute genius figures, and among many. But Thomas Paine was sort of the righteous rage of the revolution. But it was James Madison who was the pious logic. So Paine knew what it would take to move a people to rebellion. And it was Madison that knew what it would take to move a revolution to a republic. And it was the combination of those 2 characters.
Yeah, and they were totally opposite, those guys.
There could not be more different.
Could not. All right, Professor, it's a fascinating book, Rage and the Republic, out now. Good to see you. Thanks for coming on, and we'll talk again soon, I hope.
Sounds good. Thanks.